For my world religions project, I've decided to do an art project specifically related to the religion of Judaism. And I chose to draw a traditional Passover Seder plate. I was motivated to do this project because my grandparents live in a Jewish retirement home, and my family goes every spring to eat a Passover meal with them. But I grew up Episcopalian Christian, and I really had no idea what any of the food meant, or the meanings behind the food, or why they do certain practices. And so I was really interested to learn more about that. So here is my project. This is a placemat. This is traditional Passover Seder food. This is what the plate looks like that is passed around. Up here we have a lamb shank bone, or in Hebrew it is pronounced zeroah, and it represents the sacrifice of the lamb. Next to it here we have, this is a horseradish. It can be anything as long as it's a bitter herb, and the horseradish is hazeret in Hebrew. And here we have a roasted hard-boiled egg, and the shape of the egg represents the circle of life, and it also represents the loss of the temple, the Jewish temple, and the hope that it will be rebuilt someday. Down here we have parsley, or in Hebrew it is karpas. I have the names written next to them. Karpas. And over here there is a cup of water, which is salt water actually, and the karpas is dipped into the salt water before it is eaten. Karpas, the water represents the tears of the Jewish slaves. That's why you dip it into the water. Here we have harset, which is a mixture of chopped nuts, sweet wine, apples, and cinnamon. And it represents the slave labor of brick and mortar forced by the Egyptians onto the Jews. Here we have, this is romaine lettuce, or maror in Hebrew, and the maror represents the bitterness of slavery. Up here I have sweet kosher wine, matzah bread, which, as we learned in class, represents the unleavened bread because the Jews didn't have time to wait for bread to rise because they needed to escape captivity. Here I added some components that aren't traditional. So this is traditional Seder plate, but on the corners here I've added a tomato, and the tomato has been added in recent times to represent farm workers' rights. Down here we have an orange, and orange represents, it supports LGBT inclusion. Here are olives. And olives represent peace between the Israelites and the Palestinians. Here is a flower, and the flower just represents, if you are vegan, you can have the flour in place of the egg. And then we have, yeah, I explained all of them. Okay, so this is the traditional Passover Seder plate. And that's my art project.